Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and basically this is another bonus video. This one's going to be focusing on writing client-side and client-side JavaScript and CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do um, another branch. So we'll say git checkout -b feature client CSS.js. Okay, so that'll be the name of the branch. So that way when you go look at the repo, which will be linked in the video description, and I'll link directly to the branch for this video. But that way you can kind of see the different branches and see the main branch as where the main video series left off. The auth branch is where the auth bonus video left off, and in this case, the client CSS. So let me just do, now that we have that, let's run dev, run the server. Okay, and that's right because of my temporary Mongo name. So what I'm going to do is, like, do I have my local Mongo server running? Let's find out. Okay, because I do have Mongo installed on my computer and have a server that I can run. Let's see if I just type in mongod. Okay, that tells me it's probably already listening. Actually, another way I can test that out is I can just type in Mongo. Connect the Mongo, couldn't connect the server. Error connecting to connection refused. Oh, interesting. Okay, and if I type in I think I have to type in sudo mongod. Now that I think about it. Yep, there we go. Okay, so our server is running. So that way, just what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my .env to look at my local Mongo. So that's like mongodb // been a while. I don't need a username and password locally, so it would just be localhost 27017, and we'll just call this express tutorial. The name of the database actually should have been / express tutorial, and let me restart the server, and that should work. Yep, there we go. It's connected to my local server, just so that way that's taken care of. Okay, but just to kind of explain like how this is going to work, if we take a look at my EJS files, okay, each of them I have this head partial. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm writing the head tag of the HTML in a separate file. So that way I can use the same head tag in each. Okay, and then here I have my head.ejs in my partials folder. And here I kind of link to my app.js and styles.css using my static folder. And again, my static folder, there is a middleware in my server.js. So if I go back to my server.js, we go to the middleware, we see that we have my static middleware that declares that folder to be statically served under the URL /static. Okay, so the static folder is being served under the URL /static. Okay, oh, see here, another little error pops up, looks like with Mongo. What doesn't it like? Connect econ refused. Oh, it's because again I probably have an older version of Mongo installed on my computer, so I do need to put in those flags. So let's head over to where, here we go. Use unified topology. I want to set that to true. Use new URL parser. And again, this is just something I've had to look up 1,000 times, but I've done this so many times now it's like it's etched in my brain. And am I good? Nope, still doesn't like it. What option use unified topology is not supported because I'm using a use unified topology. Oh, it's because I spelled it wrong. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so we're back up and running. But we don't see the listening to Mongo yet, so that means it actually hasn't established the connection to the Mongo server. I'll give it a moment just to make sure that it does. And worst comes to worst, I'll just give in and remake the username on Mongo, and I'll just pause the video and do that. Go once, go twice, and okay, fine. I will just recreate my URL on mongodb.com. I'll be right back. Okay, I got it working locally. It just needed me to replace localhost with this, which is weird because localhost usually should work just fine in place of 127.0.01. But we're good. Okay, so it's working now. Okay, so essentially again, I have the CSS file and the JS file here in my static folder. And they're basically in the head for every page because every page has the same head tag because I'm using the partial. Okay, so again, just kind of seeing like how this all gets wired together. So the issue is you may want to do CSS, but some of the CSS you may only want on a particular page. But you don't want to have to make like 20 different CSS files, one for each page. So how can you manage that in an orderly way? So one strategy is this. What I would do is that on each page, okay, so basically the way I set it up is that all the content's in a main tag. It doesn't have to be a main tag, could be just a div or something. But the idea is that I have generally all the main content for that page, and I'll just give that a div or an ID. So I'll just say this has the ID of index because it's the index page. This is the index of main or the ID of main because it's the main page, and so forth. You know, I just kind of do this because I can use that for my JavaScript, and I can use that for, as long as that ID only shows up on one page, then we're going to be good. ID, this is new, and then ID equals show. Okay, because the idea is that like I know each page is unique because that ID is only going to exist on that page, and I can use that to style things. Okay, so let me actually open this up in the browser so that way you can kind of see as we style things. Okay, localhost 3000. Okay, so there's like that. Cool. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is what I want to do is make it where these forms are a little bit better looking. So I'm going to go to styles, and they're going to be on the main page because that's the page that they're being rendered on. Because again, if we go back here, the main page is where I did the two forms. So there it is. So I'm going to style everything using the main ID. So I'm going to just, create some comments here. Just be like, okay, here we go. Main page styles. And then I'm going to comment this out. Let me change the way I set that up. Let me just make this all asterisks. I'll just make it all plus signs. Plus main page styles. There we go. And then I can just do this, comment it out, and there we go. We have a nice little heading. Okay, cool. Okay. And then I can just be like, I use the ID of main, and I say, hey, any form tags within the ID of main form. So that would just be any descendant. That's a great way to just target. Again, it'll only target stuff that's within that ID, and that ID only shows up on one page. And that what that ID is wraps the entire content. So I can use it to target all the content. So I can just say, hey, anything that is in this has no border. So that'll get rid of the border. If I refresh, the border should be gone. Oh, did I save? Let me see here. Border, none, main, form. Oh, I meant inputs. That's right. Forms don't have borders. And there we go. So we see like all the borders have been removed. Okay, then what I might want to do is just say like background color. We'll use like this burly wood doesn't look bad. Okay, now if I refresh this, okay, that's kind of looking okay. But see, like that text is a little nice and tight, so I want to put some padding in these things, so 10 pixels. Okay, that's looking a bit better. But those are like some very hard edges, so we'll do border radius. And we will just do like a 10 pixel border radius. Should make them nice and round. There we go. And you see like that form is already looking a whole lot better. We can do things like add a shadow. So like, let's see here, like border. Actually, I think it's gonna be like drop shadow, box shadow. Okay. And forget the exact properties for this, but it's like gonna be like, let's make it black, and we'll make it like 3 pixels. Okay, and let's refresh the page. Well, let's take a look. Draw box shadow. Okay. Ah, I see. So this should have gone first. Okay, and then we'll just make this like a 10 pixel offset. And then let's see here. So blur radius. That's fine. So let's try that out. And see, we got that. Maybe we don't want to offset it quite so much, so maybe let's try 5 pixels. And then we refresh. Yeah, that's looking a little bit better. Maybe like 2 pixels. Yeah, there you go. And you see, you get this nice little effect on the buttons. They're not looking bad. Cool. Just to show you. And again, that's not going to affect other pages. So if I go to, we'll have to sign up. So we'll say Alex Merced, cheese, sign up. And I could do Alex Merced, cheese. I log in. And you notice, like, see the inputs on other pages aren't affected. Okay, so that's just how I can isolate changes. I don't have to use the ID. Maybe I want all inputs to reflect this. So I can just take off the ID and just say, hey, I want to style all inputs that use the style sheet. And now, like, on every page, any inputs will, and again, since that's a button, but you see, like, now it's changed all there. So you have to kind of decide, like, what you want. Do you want this style to apply to one page or many pages? But that whole ID technique can allow you to dictate, say, hey, I only want these particular styles to apply to this particular page based on the ID. And when you don't care, you want them to be global, then just don't use an ID. Okay, so just strategic uses of selectors. Okay, and we can apply the same logic to our JavaScript. Okay, so maybe I want a particular JavaScript to run on certain pages, but I don't want to have to create like 5 different JavaScript pages. So what you can do is, what I usually would do is I would create a little function. We'll call this like const get ID. Okay, and what this is going to do is just going to get an element based on its ID. Or we'll call it just get element. And the reason why I'm doing this, why don't I just use document.querySelector, because that's a lot of typing. So instead of having to type that out every time, I can just create a function that does the same thing. So we'll say selector. And then I'm going to just say return the result of document.querySelector. So, okay, so that way it does the same thing, except now I only have to type in getLem. And then let's say I have code that I only want to run on the edit page. Okay, so I only want this to run on the edit page. So that page's main tag should have an ID of edit on it. So what I can do is I can say if getLem edit, because if that element doesn't exist, it's going to return undefined, which is going to be false. But if that element does exist, it's going to return the element, and again, any object is true. Okay, so it'll have that DOM object that'll be treated as a truthy value, and this if statement will run. So then I can put any code that I want to run on that page here. So I can be like alert, you're on the edit page. You are on the edit page. So let's try it out. So even though every single page has this JavaScript file, only the edit page should end up having actually running this code. So you see, the code didn't run. Now if I click on each cheese, still the code did not run. Now if I click, oh, there is no edit page. So let me try, let's do this on the new page. So right now if I refresh this page, still not running. If I go to delete the to-do and I'm back on the index, see the code's not running. But if I go to create a to-do, and then there's the alert, you are on the edit page, and edit that. But you see, like, I can now create a block of JavaScript that only runs on the particular page that I want it on. So I can create one that runs on index, one that runs on the show page, and so forth. And again, how complex the code gets within that block, as much as you want. But the idea is that, one, it kind of organizes your code because okay, let me go look in the if statement for that page, and allows you to use one JavaScript file, especially when you're working with like a simpler site. Okay, again, if you're talking about like a page that's starting to grow up to like 10 plus pages, then you might want to consider using like a framework. If it's just really a static site that you're using for like SEO purposes, then you're probably going to want to use a static site generator like Gatsby, Next, Nux, um, or I mean, even either way, you'd probably want to use a framework like that. But you know, if it's more of just like an interactive application where a lot of the work is going on the client side, then you may just want to use React. Okay, it just depends on like what your intention is and sort of like what kind of applications you're going as you get into those more complicated applications. But if you're talking about like a 2-3 page application, where really you can put all the CSS in one file and all the JavaScript in one file for the front end, this is one way to organize that so that way they can all have the same CSS and JavaScript file linked to them, but you're able to manage what happens on what page. Okay, so my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.